Hello, hello. Making stone tools once again. My name's Doug North. I'm going to be flintknapping today. Probably working on this little piece of dacite I started just the other day. Just got to get my stuff organized and situated and be ready to go. Make sure you can see my work area here, right there. Off and running. Okay. Max. Let's see, just checking my volume. Looks okay. It is chilly in here. I got the heater on. It's going to take a little time for that to heat up. I didn't see what the temp is, but ooh, it's pretty cold. So I've been working on this piece. Started it yesterday from a piece about that size of dacite. About this size. This is called a spall, and we've reduced it down a few stages, referring to the great Professor Eric Callahan's diagrams here. I'm somewhere here, maybe a little thinner than the yeah, I'm about here. So I'm working my way through the stages of thinning this thing down into a projectile point, probably of some kind, or a very small knife, but rather small for that. And I usually talk through the stages of what I'm doing, and if you hop on here and you're confused or you want to know more about something, just drop a line in the chat. Let me know, and I will do my best to clear up what I'm doing and why. You can't just randomly smack at this thing and hope that it's going to turn out right. Everything sort of has a reason, a purpose, and if you don't follow the rules, basically, things are going to go weird on you. Things are going to go bad. It's not going to turn out the way you like, or you're going to do something unfortunate like this. I was working on this a few days ago, and boom. Broke it right in half. But I keep that around. I'll keep it around for a little while as a reminder of things not to do. Okay, let's see how I'm doing here. Still could do some percussion, which means hitting. That is this is called a billet or a copper bopper. Actually, I'm holding it freehand out here. Often I hold it on my leg, but I just want to give this a little shot, a little try on this spot. There we go. And I knocked a little flake off from right there. Just a little one. Nice and controlled, though. Another little one, just doing it on my leg. Braiding. Break out this pressure flaker too. I'm going to be hopping back and forth between different tools because of the size of, where this piece is, how big it is at the moment. When it's very large, when it's a big giant piece like this, the tools scale up. Use a big giant piece of copper like that. As it gets smaller, the tools get smaller. And the techniques also change. So I may be hitting it, percussion, or I may be doing this, which is pressure flaking. And in this case, I'm gonna put the piece on a rubber pad. I'll put the tip of the tool right on a low spot, and then I'll squeeze with my legs. And that will push a flake off. And the advantage of this is it's very controlled. I'm not gonna miss per se. So I know I've got it positioned right where I want it. I'm going to start squeezing. until I press off some flakes, which you can see there. And it was this right here. That's what just came off. That was a good flake. I know sounds like a silly thing to say. That was a good flake, but making a good tool is basically lining up a bunch of good flakes. And so I celebrate the little victories. If I can do a bunch of good flakes, if I can consistently do good flakes, then I'm hopefully going to end up with a stone tool that I'm happy with. All right, I think I need to change this edge right here. I want to work on this side, which means I need to either hit from this side or push from this side. But to do this effectively, I want to lower this edge. I want it to be further down. So I'm going to do a bunch of little trimming flakes. Just all along one side, very small flakes. And this is really just to change where that edge is. So I'm basically preparing for a whole sequence of maneuvers after this little trimming is done. I'm preparing a whole side, really. This is one way to do it. I'll show you how small these flakes are. See, very small. They're all coming off from this edge down below. And I'll just get rid of those. Take a look to see if I've moved that platform down enough. I'd like to do a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to grab my pressure flaker tool, and I'm also going to do this technique called shearing. I'm going to put the tool on the edge. I'm going to kind of scrape down the side of it to break off the pointiness of the edge, to make the edge less long and thin and a little bit more blunt. And then in the same vein, I'm going to take this abrading stone and rub it on that edge. Why am I making it more blunt? There is a reason. And that reason is, now when I put the tool on there and push, it won't just break right on the edge. This edge will be strong enough that if I push, it can withstand the force for a little while. And then when it finally does break, that force will ripple down through and it'll make the flake longer. And if the flake is longer, if it carries further this way, then I have a better chance of making this piece thin. So it's sort of a multi-stage process there. I changed the level that this was at. I brought it down. Then I sheared to make it more blunt. And then I ground it to make it even stronger. And now I'm ready to take a series of flakes off from this side. So I will do that now. Hold it in this rubber pad. You can also use a thick leather pad. And then I'm going to get the larger pressure flaker, sometimes called an Ishi stick, named after a famous flint napper named Ishi. Get the point on the spot where I want, and then basically use my arms and my legs to squeeze until a flake comes off. And a flake came off from right here. You can see that flake scar left behind. I'm going to just move over a fraction of an inch and do it again. And that one was right next to it, right here. So the first one was right there, then right there. Now I'll move down to here. So I'm going to do a whole row of these on this one edge because I prepared this whole side, so it's like ready for it. And the reason it's taking me a moment, I don't just immediately snap it off. I could just push real quick, but if I do it slowly, I'm letting the pressure build up in the stone. I'm putting it under stress. Even though nothing's really changing as far as you can see, I'm putting it under stress. And so when it finally breaks, that flake carries a little further. So it's one of those like unseen things that's going on. I could just push real hard right now and snap it off. Push the flake off, right? But it'll be a shorter flake than if I put the tool on there and slowly let the pressure build up. That's kind of a nice example. All right, I'll show you what happened there because of the way I did that. First of all, there is the flake that came off. You can see that it's longer than it is wide. That's kind of a nice thing. I need a pointer of some sort. Here we go. So that flake came off from right here. See this? And let's see where if I can find the end. It went all the way to the middle. Almost to the middle of the piece. So it went all that way. That's good. That means if I'm able to do that from both sides, I'll get this thing thin. So that's one reason I'm not just snapping that off. Snapping the flake off quickly. Because I'm trying to get them to be longer like that. And let's see. Now I'll do some more. Again, I'll just move a little bit. Maybe I'll abrade again. This end is not quite, it's not quite as well prepared, so I'll just make sure that it is. Keep my pointer up there. Hey Dimitri, I'm making stone tools using a very ancient method called flintknapping. Okay, do another one right here. Oh, sometimes the tool just slips off the edge, in which case I've got to reset and try again. There we go. That was kind of a big flake right there, right here. A little wider. But parts of it almost got to the center, so that's good. Oh, that was a very long flake. I'll show you that one. So that one was right here. And it did go all the way to the middle. It went into here. So you see, if I were able to do that from this side and from this side, then the whole thing is going to get thinned this way. And that's what we need. You took long enough to go live. What do you mean? Okay, another flake. I'm not sure what that means. This is about the time I normally go live. Not sure I follow. There we go. So I've done a whole row from here all the way down. You can see that banding, the little ripples that are the edges of each of those flakes. I still need to do from here up. Oh, yeah, I don't really keep track of exactly when I when I start these. It's just when I'm available in the, at the end of the day, at the end of my day. I have lots of other things I need to do, so I can't really set like a hard schedule, unfortunately. Oh, you're just picking on me? Okay, good. Good. Couple more. Put this in. And then I'll be able to show you the whole side with a whole whole series of flakes that have been done. Got to be a little bit more careful up here at the tip. Up here, because it's just not as strong. And so I might be using more of my arms and less of my legs. So is that you, Ender Baby? I'm just working on reducing a piece of dacite that was this big yesterday down to a point, probably an arrowhead, maybe a spear point. But I'm sort of following the steps of production outlined by Eric Callahan in his one of his publications from long ago, just as sort of an exercise. Cool. I'm glad I recognized you more or less. So the thing is, as you're making a piece thin, this could still be a bunch of things. This might be, I might make it narrower and it might be a knife. If I'm able to maintain the length while thinning it, it could be a spear point. If things get weird or I break the tip or something, I'll probably still have enough material to make an arrowhead. So in a way, it's the same process regardless of what you're doing. And you can kind of just try to get it thin, see what you're left with, and then say, this is best for a knife. This is best for an arrowhead. So a lot of times I don't worry very much about exactly what it is I'm making. I just do my best to make it thin while preserving as much of the height, the length as I can, and then sort of decide at the end. And I think that's probably pretty indicative of what a lot of the prehistoric people did. I mean, sure, they probably knew they needed a spear point and then they made one. But in a way, you've got to kind of see how it goes and let the rock, to a degree, dictate what your final product really is. That's sort of my thinking. That's my theory. It's not necessarily what archaeologists and probably some of them have said that, but to my knowledge, it's just my notion. And that's in part just because of where my skill level is. So I've done a row of flakes on this whole edge, and you can kind of see the nice lines on this side. Gets a little wonkier up here. There's a few, I could come back in and do a few others on the low spots. I'll do that now. So I'll braid it again to make sure it's strong. And then I'll look for spots, particularly where it's gotten light again. It tells me there's a low point right there. And it's a suitable place for me to do another flake. So I can follow up on the last series I did. And hit any of those spots again. And then I'll probably need to pick a different side and start working from a different edge. And that's how it proceeds. You basically have four places, four edges you're really working from. So two sides, and then a top and a bottom, if you will, two faces of two sides. So right now I'm working along all this area. And once I'm done, then I'll need to take a look and see if it makes sense to jump over to this side and which face is more appropriate to continue working on. My flakes, some of my flakes are getting to the middle, not all of them are. It would be better if they were all getting to the center of the piece. I'm getting close. It would be more ideal if they carried, so maybe I'll be even a little bit more deliberate about applying pressure slowly. That was not slowly. Not a big deal, but I do want those flakes to carry long as possible. I'm getting to the point where I'll probably need to switch sides. Okay. All right, so that's this whole set here. It doesn't show the stripes as much because I went into some of the in-between spots and took those flakes off too. But now I need to look at the thing and decide where to work. And how do I decide? Well, now this is quite flat because I took flakes off from there. So I don't want to continue working there. I need a little bit of a convexity. It needs to be a little bit rounded. So this side is looking better. And I can prepare this edge to make it even better. And this brings us back to where I started that last round. So if I'm going to work on this, taking flakes off from here, I need this edge, this line, to be just a little lower. So I'm going to work on that. Taking a bunch of trimming flakes. Just using my smallest bopper or billet. Keeping the point at kind of keeping it flat or a little bit at an angle like that. And that will ensure that these flakes are very short because all I'm doing is trying to change the edge. Not really. This is preparing to take long flakes. This itself is not meant to take long flakes. Just getting ready to do so. All right, get rid of those. Just little tiny flakes. Again, so I'm hitting this way, and it's knocking off little flakes from the bottom of this edge. And where the two surfaces meet is slowly rising up. So that when I flip it over, it's actually, now it's lower down. Because that's how I get optimum flakes coming off the bottom. By changing that, where that line is, it's one of the things I need to do to make sure that my flakes are as long as possible. And then to make that edge stronger, I'm going to abrade it. So this is the process over and over and over again. Sometimes it's using percussion, that is to say hitting it, and sometimes it's using pressure. Okay, so that's all prepared now for me to take flakes from down here, from the bottom side. Get my rubber pad, have a drink. Get my ishi stick. Put the tool right on the edge and slowly build up pressure by squeezing my legs together until it pops off a flake. One right there. I think you can see the flake scar in the light right there. And then I need to move over, either go up or down. I think I'll go up. Move it over a little bit. And repeat. Okay. Might have a little bit of a problem developing, but I'm not going to worry about it just yet. Oh, I put the tool too far into the edge, so I wasn't able to push the flake off. There we go. It's just as well that I stopped pushing, because I probably would have broke the whole thing in half if I kept going. It's always a balancing act. You need to use force to break the things off, but too much force or too much force in the wrong place, yeah, and you ruin your work. It's a very interesting craft in that way, is that you're sort of constantly walking a tightrope, between doing what you need to do to reduce the piece, using force to reduce it, and potentially breaking it. So it's one of the many things that makes this a challenging thing to do. Okay, here we go. Back to it. Slowly build up force. And break off a flake. Little flake, they end up in this little groove down here. That's why I'm using the rubber pad, so they don't go into my hand. They may be little, but they are sharp. You do not want these in your hand. And again, I'm working near the tip, so I might start using my arm a little bit more than my leg so that I can kind of regulate the amount of force. Not overdo it. And just snap the tip right off. The tip doesn't have as much material backing it up. And so it's a little bit more prone to breaking in unwanted ways. All right, almost done with the first run down this side. Kind of the larger flakes is down this side, see them? And between each flake, I think you can see that there's a little gap. So I don't put the flakes right next to each other. Like here's one. So they're spread out a little bit. And that leaves a little triangle behind. So now I can go through and push those off. There'll be smaller flakes, but there's still enough material where those triangles are that I won't just be crushing the edge. It's still strong enough that if I push right there, I'll make a flake that travels some distance. But because they're not supported as well, I'll just use the smaller pressure flaker. Though that was pretty hard to push. Maybe I should use the Ishii stick, but yeah, again, those aren't quite getting to the center, which I would prefer that they did. Take a few flakes off the bottom because I've kind of been neglecting it. So let's see, this is the edge, this is the side I've been working on right there. And my flakes aren't quite getting to the middle. So it might end up being a little fat in the middle. So I'm gonna take a hard look at it, maybe trim up the side a little bit, make it a little bit more narrow, which will help me bring the flakes toward the center. I'm just looking for any like little things I left behind, kind of clean it up. Make sure I'm not leaving just uneven stuff for when I go to do my next round. Make sure it's all kind of, each side is kind of complete for this stage, I guess I should say. Just popping off ones here and there to make it kind of uniform. All right. Kind of a delicate tip here. It may not last. It's okay. And then if we take a look at this from the side, getting thinner. Not as thin as I would like at this stage. So that round didn't go as well as I would have liked. No big disaster, but I'd like it if it was thinner. What I could consider doing is going back to a little bit of percussion. Preparing an edge and whacking it and seeing if I can get the flakes to carry farther. I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I left myself with a real problem. See that right here? It's got this hard edge. That's called a step fracture. And that's what you don't want to do. I'm going to see if I can help myself out here by putting this tool right on that hard edge and breaking it off in the middle. Having a little bit of luck. I'm taking some flakes off to reduce that step. Why did that happen? Because I didn't prepare that edge carefully enough before switching over to the billet. I was just like, maybe I'll try it. I didn't really go through all of the steps to make sure that the platform was as perfectly set up as it could be. I was kind of careless. I kind of rushed it. Hey Atlas, doing well. Trying to get myself out of a little problem I made. So what I'm doing is, this is a notching tool. It's kind of got this little flat part, and I'm placing it on the little step fracture that I made, on a little hard line I made in there, and then I'm pushing, and I've actually pried off the center of my problem. It's still a problem. Right here in the middle, I actually pried off a piece. So my problem isn't as bad as it was a moment ago. Still a problem, but not as bad. And let that be a lesson to me. Platform preparation is it's really it's everything, really. I mean, it's not everything, but it's very important. And the way I just sort of skipped it was a bad idea. I think I'll taper the bottom a little bit so it looks a little bit more like a laurel leaf. Just going to bring the bottom, to something of a point, more of a point. And I can just do that with small flakes using the pressure flaker. Though I will use the hand pad too. Because if I can make it thinner as I'm trimming that bottom, okay. That's a two birds, one stone kind of thing. So I might as well. Yeah. So what am I doing? I'm basically bringing this into a bit more of a point. So just as an exercise to make it look a little bit more like Callahan's final product here on this page, which is called a laurel leaf. Is it a laurel leaf point? Well, I'm not sure, but it's a leaf-like point. Let's see. A few from over here. And a few from here. Okay, see how that is coming. I mean, it's not going to be a long point like up here, but just a bit more of one. Okay. All right, do a little grinding, a little trimming, and then we'll go for another round of good pressure flakes. Okay. Still got my little remnant of my step fracture over there. It's not as bad. I think I saved it enough that I'll be able to work around it. So I'm gonna work on making it a little narrower, and I'm gonna change the platform on this side so I can do a row of flakes. So I don't know. This is like my fourth pass or my fourth edge, maybe. But hopefully you're getting a feel for the sequence and the goals of each round. Okay, so that one, a little bit more. So I'll take a row off from there. Just go ahead and do that. Okay, I've got this all prepared for a row of pressure flakes. I'm going to do the Ishi stick. That was a good flake. It was this right here. That traveled to the middle, which is helpful. Throw one right next to it, see if we can get the same thing going. Remember to use my legs. They're a lot stronger. Yeah, that was good. So, right here, that flake carried all the way to the middle, right here. That's what I need. That's what I need. That will ensure that the piece gets thinner and I'm not end up with a big, thick center. I know this isn't as exciting as taking big hits on a large piece, but this is how they get finished, you know, so it's every bit as useful as kind of the more dramatic, you know, big hits on a larger piece. Oh boy, I'm knocking everything over. Yeah, that step fracture that I had is kind of turning into a little bit of a stack. The flakes are the step fractures like right there, and now these are starting to stop sort of on a line that was defined by that step fracture. That's going to be hard to correct. Ideally, I would take a big flake from the opposite side. Well, it might be time to man up here and prepare for that, to try and do it from a percussion flake from the other side to get rid of that issue. On the riskier side of things for me, doing a large-ish percussion hit at this stage carries some risk. I could break it. So my options are to like live with that thick, ugly bit, or grind it out with an abrasive or something, the abrasive stone, the abrasive wheel, or to try and set myself up for a hit from this side that removes it. And I'm feeling, well, I don't feel bold, but I feel like if you don't try it, you'll never learn to do it. So while I don't feel bold, I feel like I got to give it a shot. I'm going to use the pressure flakers to just make my preparation even a little bit more exact. Maximize my chances of doing something good. It's an interesting phase, because at the start you're using all the big batons or billets to hit. But now, and at the end, you're just using pressure. But in this middle zone, it's like you might be switching back and forth a little bit. Okay, I might take some strategic pressure flakes so basically the goal here's my mess right here. The goal will be to hit from this side, to knock off a flake, to get rid of the mess from this way. I can't do it from this side. That's the direction that created the problem. I can't go that way. I could go from the end, but the end has now become pointy, and it can't take a big hit. It'll break, probably. So my best chance is to go from here to take a flake off underneath. What I'm going to do is take some strategic pressure flakes first to sort of reduce the material around where I want the flake to go. So I'm sort of taking it down so that the part that's left is going to be directed toward where I want. We're really thinking ahead now. I'm basically preparing for kind of a scary big flake. So I'm going to take away stuff around it. Not going too far, because I still need to leave a suitable platform. And if I take out too much, there won't be material that bridges from here, where I'm going to hit, to here, where I want to remove it. If I take off material in here, the force has nothing to travel through, if that makes sense. I hope it does to some of you. All right. Braid. This could be my last hit on this piece. We'll just have to see how it goes. I'm going to support it on my leg. It just has to travel. Do I want to do that freehand? I could try it. Just practicing my swing here. I don't think you're going to be able to see that. Okay. Got to practice my hold, practice my swing. Oh my gosh, I got it. Folks, I held it freehand. I hit it here, right here, and that took off that, which totally includes my nasty little step fracture. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, that feels good. I mean, the point isn't done or anything, but I just got myself out of a real jam. and basically got rid of a piece that was just going to continue to cause problems and prevent me from thinning it further. Woo! Wow. That was awesome. Still got a little bit of a issue over there, but that carried all the way across to the issue. Oh my gosh. Phew. Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. I didn't have a lot of confidence that that was going to work. You could probably tell. But as I said, if you don't go for those sometimes, you'll never learn to do it. So, it was risky. I didn't have a lot of confidence about it, but it worked out. So that tells me next time, like, well, there's a chance. There's a chance I could pull that off. I did it once before. Show you where we're at with this sort of leaf shape point. Still thicker than I would like, but getting smaller. Hey, Dane. Hey, Davina. Whew. I feel like I need a rest after that little epic drama, that little mini drama. Oh, it feels good though. It's like last year I wouldn't have been able to do that. Able to see that it was a problem. I'm doing well. How are you? I just got myself out of a little bind on this stone using some planning and a variety of techniques that I'm just thinking I wouldn't have been able to do last year. And that's kind of a neat thing to recognize that, like, yeah, that's progress. Sometimes it's hard to remember, like, where was I with this stuff last year? And I'm certain I couldn't have done that last year. Had to put together a number of techniques, plan for it, take a chance, and that paid off. That feels good. That feels good. All right. I'll show you where I am. Just as an exercise that I didn't even plan yesterday, I started looking at this page from Eric Callahan's work. And what he's doing here, he's going through the stages. Stage 2. Stage 1 is just getting yourself the material. And here's stage 2. And I did that with this piece. And then I went to stage 3. And this is somewhere in here, about where I started today. Maybe in here. I've been working, this is where I'm working right now. Stage 4. And, aiming for here. He was a very, very skilled flint knapper and academic primitive skills practitioner. And he taught a lot of people who are still around and who are very good at this. So he's a great role model, a great person to learn from through the people that he's that are still around that learn from him and from his writings. So I didn't really plan to do this. I've read this page before many times, but I just happened to be talking and thinking about it, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Why don't I use that as a jumping off point? I stand a much better chance of getting this thinner because I got rid of that problem. That was gonna, I took this, like, if you weren't here for it, I took this like ill-advised random hit with the bopper and left myself with a bad step fracture. And my best way out of it was to use an even bigger hit at a point where I would just prefer to be using pressure flaking the whole time. So, so it worked out, which is a bit of a surprise to me, but I am very grateful. My leg pad back on. Yeah, January 8th. What's going on? Make sure I don't have any other potential problems that nothing as bad as that, certainly, but I should be mindful of what I'm walking into as I try to get this thin. I'm able to tug off a few little step fractures using this flat tool. This isn't something I used to do. I didn't know about it. It just never occurred to me. But it's a good little trick if you can make it work. Sometimes helps a lot. I'm just snagging. If I've got a little tiny step fracture, I'm using this flat tool and I'm snagging it and then trying to press it off. Kind of just grip it from the side and make it let go. I don't know if it's very conventional or not, but hey, I'm pretty sure that if it worked, that it's been done in the past. I really doubt that I'm coming up with, well, I didn't come up with this for sure, but I bet you it's been used since way back when. It's hard to imagine that we would come up with many techniques that weren't known by the ancients when it comes to this stuff. Maybe some, but I bet you they knew most of what there was to know. Okay, I'm gonna just abrade this edge right now just because it's so slippery. So I'm just gonna roughen it up so that my tool tip will hang on a little bit better. So that can be another reason why you abrade. If your tool is just slipping right off the surface, this can kind of help a little bit. Okay, good. Switch to the small tool. peek at where we're at here. Gonna check down the edge and look for anything that's like that I left behind sort of unintentionally. Make sure it's kind of straight, maybe not centered yet, but at least straight. Well, yeah, kind of. The more you Atlas, the more you start focusing on the shape, the outline, the more finished it starts to look. And the more pressure flaking you do, sort of the more like fine lines you get, and it starts kind of looking like a thing. I've been working on kind of making it a little bit more straight edged, just to sort of match the drawings. And I think that gives it a bit more of a finished feel too. I got a little too much, took too much of a bite down here. I think it can be a little narrower based on the diagram. Sort of check it for, start checking it for symmetry as I go along. A little bit, you know, checking it more than I was. It's still pretty wide at its widest part compared to what Callahan's got, but I suppose there is probably variation. And this is going to continue to get thinner as I try to. It's going to get narrower as I try to make it thinner. Thanks, Joseph. Okay, take some flakes down here. Maybe one more round. I mean, you could go on endlessly, of course. But, well, no, you can't. Eventually, you've got no material left, but you can go on a long time. Yeah, it does sort of get harder because your moves are smaller. I should also switch to a slightly smaller tip. It's a little easier to place the tool where you want it. Hey, Joe, I'm doing well. Just working on that same piece of dacite, working through Professor Eric Callahan's stages of lithic reduction. I'm getting closer and closer to the final stages here. Still thicker than I would like, but you know, I'm still very much learning. And a few minutes ago, I got myself out of a problem that I didn't think I was going to be able to fix, and it worked. And I was like, it felt like a real victory. One of those things I know I wouldn't have been able to do last year. So that's kind of cool. It can be hard to remember. I should probably date my pieces, you know, so that I can, when I pick something up, you know, something random is sitting here like, when did I make this? Oh, a month ago. Oh, yeah, I can see what I can do to that. I know where I went wrong. I don't really document what I'm doing, and maybe I should kind of have an appreciation for progress that way. Okay. This side could really use some good looking flakes. Ah, I love that idea. UV pen. Yeah, I love that idea. I've got a black light, so I'd already be able to read it. That's a super idea. Do they make them kind of fine point? They must. That's a really cool idea. All I have to do is shine a black light on it, and I'd be able to see. I could write all kinds of stuff on there. That's a very cool idea. You know, if it's just for my own information, that's perfect. Fiber tip. Hey Dan, welcome back. You didn't miss much. I'm just continuing to refine this point. Yeah, I've wondered that exact same thing. Cho. I just feel like our genus has been doing this for so long. You know, it is part of who we are. Certainly tool making, but stone tool making, I mean, we have records of them going back 3.3 million years in our lineage. And that's just what we found. Probably even older. That's a really, really long time. It feels like, I mean, I don't know, but it feels like that's long enough to be actually, as you say, coded in our DNA. It's a very long time. The ones from 3.3 million years ago don't look like this, but they were deliberately crafted to serve as tools. So they have that in common. They were made of stone. They were made with one stone against another. So the technology is, more or less the same. Take one off from this side. I got to weaken that a little bit. There we go. And if you think about it, how do primates learn sophisticated behaviors from other primates? It's by watching. A primate, a hominin, I think maybe, definitely true primates, many primates, but if we say a hominin for sure, a hominin that didn't pay attention to what others were doing, like particularly parents, probably wouldn't have made it. Probably would not have survived. I think I can confidently say that, because even our great ape relatives, that's how they learn their sophisticated behaviors. It's by watching. So it would make sense to me that we would have some predilection for it that's innate. Pretty essential to pick up complex behaviors from others. And stone tools going back at least 3.3 million years seems like a lot of time to establish the importance of this task in particular. Check my reference drawing. Okay, my corners, these corners are a little pointy, so I'm gonna round those off with some small flakes. Just holding it flat on the pad and just pressing straight down. takes off very, very small controlled flakes that aren't going to carry, but can help me define the pattern, the outline, the edge outline. Okay, now I need to even them out a little bit. Let's see. This side. Very small flakes, just trying to trim up the margins. Yeah, the internet is a wild place. Like practicing two different like ancient skills at, you know, some enormous distance apart. It's feels kind of unlikely, but there it is. Make this tip a little bit more rounded, probably gives it a little more strength. Let's see that. Okay. Just trying to get my proportions kind of right. It's definitely not going to be exact. Trying to get them in the ballpark of the drawing. Still not quite there, but closer and closer every moment. And trying to get my edge kind of on a center line. Which side I chip from is the way I adjust that. So I got to tune in a little bit more, make sure that I'm always chipping in a way that brings that edge to the center. Okay, that one's pretty much on the center. This one, a couple of weird spots. Let me see. people that are really good at this can make the flake scars from one edge line up with the flake scars coming from the opposite edge, so they look like they're striped with flake scars. That is beautiful and beyond me, at least at present. Yeah, this is thicker than I would like, but that last round of flakes, I could do another. I'm gonna stop today and think about that, but I could do another round, see if I could get this really thin. I was really on track there, and I feel like this last round just really didn't help with the thinness. I can see I've got a little bit of a step fracture issue going on one side. That was probably a big part of the problem. And the rest I'm not sure. Maybe my pressure flakes are too thin. You know, maybe I need to set my tool a little deeper. I'm not sure. A good question to research in my reading, or to ask one of my more knowledgeable friends. I'm not unhappy with it, but I just I thought I was on track for much thinner than this. Hold it up to the other one. It has a bit more of a rounded profile. I made this a little too straight compared to his, but that's okay. This was just a kind of an impromptu exercise, so I'm not, I don't know, I'm not going to be too hard on myself about it. Well, welcome back, Ender Baby. I'll show you. My proportions definitely aren't entirely on the mark here, but I can keep working on it. Let's see, where is the Callahan's final? I think I'm still a little too wide at the widest part. Here's his. Yeah, I think I'm still a little too wide at the widest part. Huh, that's good in a way. That could give me some opportunities to take some more thinning flakes. Because whenever you, whenever you go to thin it, you're going to lose width. A pressure flake or a percussion flake taken from the side makes that side just a little shorter. Put the book away. Oh, yeah, what book is that? It's a very thin book of the illustrations that Professor Eric Callahan created. I think it's just a self-published thing. It's called Primitive Technology. I'll show you the cover in just a second. Primitive Technology, Practical Guidelines for Making Stone Tools, Pottery, Basketry, etc. The Aboriginal Way. 7th edition. Sorry that's backwards, but hopefully that gives you enough time to screen grab it or something and flip it around. I believe these are still available online somewhere. It's only, what is it, like 24 pages long? But every page is just packed with, I mean, so here's the page on bow making, making for bow and arrow. It's just packed. Just so much, if you want like a mostly visual guideline with just enough written material to give you the important stuff. It's just so, it's there's just like a handful of pages on Flintknapping, maybe 12 or, if you include hafting, like 13 pages on Flintknapping, but I leave it out here in the shop because it's that like concise and helpful. That if I can have like just one reference to look at quickly, it's this is great. All of that talk that I do about preparing platforms to get long flakes, it's summarized on this page. Like how sharp should the edge be? What angle should you hit it? What line relative to center should the platform be? How curved should the surfaces be? It's all here. Like if you could master what's on this page, you would be an exceptional flint napper. So it's just kind of a remarkable little book that so much so that I leave it out here. This information is elsewhere, but it's just so concise and well done. He wrote a bunch of stuff that appears in the Bulletin of Primitive Technology. No longer published, but that was a periodical. And anything that he wrote for that is good stuff. I mean, anything he wrote is good stuff, but some of it is extremely academic and a little hard to push through if you're actually just, if you're interested in making stuff, it's almost a little hard to just make yourself read it. Because it can be very academic. He was a professor, so he had to publish that stuff to continue being a professor, I'm sure. Two of the guys who I have learned some of what I know about flintknapping studied with him directly. Well, definitely running into some little problems that affect the aesthetics of this thing. But that might be a problem. That might be a challenge for another day. See how much of that I can work out. And really, I mean, it is mostly aesthetics. I'd like to get the width down some, but well, 7:30 p.m. my time. I think it's probably getting close to when I need to pack it in. But I appreciate those of you who are still with me, and everyone else who's been along for the ride. We're going to leave it here today. I don't think I'd call it done, but we're getting real close, or we're getting as close as it's almost as far as I can take it with my skills. But I think if I'm willing to make it a little smaller, I could probably reduce some of the thickness still and maybe make it prettier. But that's it for today. Oh, hey, Devin. Yeah, sorry, it is the end, unfortunately, but I'm glad you signed on and said hi. I've just been working on this point, roughly, working through Callahan's stages of reduction and trying to get to, down to this. I didn't get anywhere near this thin proportionally. I mean, not bad, but not that. I mean, his drawing is much smaller than mine. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the ballpark. Am I? If you scale my point down to this size, am I at the same relative thinness? It feels thick to me, but maybe I'm in the ballpark. I didn't really consider that much. Huh. Yeah. I think it's still thick. But anyway, doesn't matter. Thank you, everybody, for hanging with me or checking in. Always appreciate it. I ran into a little snag with my long form video. Still trying to put the nail in the coffin on that one. Maybe I should just say good enough, done, and move on to the next one. That's probably what I should do. It's better to get them out there at sort of 80% than to just sit on it forever. So anyway, thank you all for joining, and I'm sure to be back out here this week. Thinness, yeah. Well, that is, if that's so, Devin, then that is good enough for me. Yeah, thinness. I'm gonna be working more on indirect percussion too, and I know once I get the hang of that, that's gonna help a lot. But I haven't made that a real priority yet. Well, all right. I better get out of here, get something to eat. and get on with it. So thank you all, and I'll catch you again very soon. See you on the internets. Good to know. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I can measure it and then compare it to scale to the drawing, and I bet you I'm not all that far off. And being super thin, I mean, it looks cool, but depending on what you're making, it may or may not be to your advantage to have it super thin. Like super thin. All right, I'm for real signing off. Have a great day, everyone, and I will talk to you soon. Later.